Good morning, you're watching A News. I'm Dilek Tuna. Here are the top stories for the hour. US President Donald Trump marks his first 100 days in office at a Michigan rally. 3 people were shot dead in central Uppsala, Sweden. A police search for the shooter is ongoing. North Korea conducts the first test firing of its new warships weapons system. US President Donald Trump marked the 100th day of his second term with a rally in Warren, Michigan on Tuesday. Addressing a crowd of supporters, he highlighted his administration's achievements in economic policy, immigration enforcement and government reform. Trump touted the implementation of significant tax cuts, claiming they would raise average household incomes and eliminate taxes for many earnings. He also emphasized his administration's efforts to reduce inflation, which he declared had already ended, and to increase wages. The rally held at Macomb Community College was Trump's largest political event since returning to the White House.
And they're saying, and you know what? And inflation is basically down.
Our correspondent in the United States, Ubay Shapandar, has more about key highlights of Trump's 100-day Michigan rally.
President Trump held a massive rally in Macomb County, Michigan, to mark his 100 days since he won his re-election, where he touted his administration's record on the economy, border control, and tackling waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal bureaucracy. Trump promised the crowd that his administration will also soon pass what he called the largest tax cuts in American history. In many ways, it was a typical Trump rally. There was dancing, singing, cheering, and Trump brought onto stage a number of members of his administration, including Mehmet Oz, the Trump administration's administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And in a striking moment at the rally, Trump showed a minutes-long video of illegal immigrants being deported to high-security prisons in El Salvador under the Alien Enemies Act. The crowd, in response, chanted, USA. We are delivering mass deportation and it's happening very fast, the president said. And after 100 days in office, it seems each day has come with a new executive order issued by the president on a major policy item. Winning the 2024 election in decisive fashion, President Trump has made it clear that he is going to maximize the use of his executive authority. And at the center of Trump's sweeping vision for the future of the country, America First. That has meant a crackdown on illegal migration, an unprecedented overhaul of the federal bureaucracy, efforts to bring down grocery prices, and the elimination of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, and of course, President Trump's signature, tariffs. On immigration, Trump declared a national emergency on the American-Mexico border that has seen border crossings plummet during his first 100 days. President Trump has also focused his efforts to bring down grocery prices, particularly the cost of eggs, which skyrocketed in the past 3 years. And to protect American jobs, President Trump launched the country's most ambitious tariffs to date. In February, he unveiled new 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico, but later paused and then suspended the majority of those tariffs. On China, however, Trump has raised tariffs to a massive 145% as the retaliatory trade war with Beijing continues to escalate. President Trump has also promised that the External Revenue Service, which he ordered into existence via an executive order that he signed on Inauguration Day, will soon become a reality. In March, the president announced an executive order closing down the Department of Education, one of the very rare times in American history in which a major federal agency has been ordered to be shut down by the White House. But it is his administration's record on cracking down on illegal border crossings that President Trump is perhaps most proud of achieving in his first 100 days in office. Attempts by migrants to illegally cross the American-Mexico border have significantly decreased, according to the latest figures. President Trump has also talked about his energy policy, which he credited for lowering the price of gasoline or petrol for the average consumer. Increased gas and egg prices were major issues of concern for millions of American voters. And Trump made sure to stress how his policies are having an impact on the pocketbooks of everyday citizens. Mubi Shabander for A News, Washington, D.C.
100 days into his second term, Donald Trump has reasserted his presidency with a mix of bold moves, global disruption and domestic crackdowns. He's reshaping both America's priorities and its place in the world.
Honorable Donald John Trump.
From border crackdowns to backroom diplomacy, Trump's return to the White House has been anything but quiet. In just 100 days, he's reignited old battles, sparked new ones, and pushed Washington and the world into uncharted territory.
Solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
That I will
From the moment Donald Trump stepped back into the Oval Office in January 2025, he wasted no time reigniting one of his signature priorities: immigration. On day one, Trump declared a national emergency at the southern border, deploying U.S. forces to assist with enforcement. He also ordered the expansion of Guantanamo Bay's migrant facility, increasing its capacity to hold up to 30,000 high-priority detainees. The message was clear. Immigration enforcement was back at the top of the agenda, and it would be stricter, faster, and more militarized than ever before. Even before his second term began, Trump signaled that his foreign policy would revolve around conflict resolution, or at least his version of it. US President floated ideas like renaming geographical landmarks, the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America, and even suggested that Greenland could be brought closer under US administration, also jokingly referred to Canada as the 51st state. His early moves focused on bringing an end to the wars in Ukraine and the Middle East. But those peace efforts quickly stirred controversy. In the Middle East, his suggestion to take control of the Gaza Strip has sparked heated debate. Trump proposed permanently displacing Palestinians from Gaza, stating that people there had no choice but to leave the area devastated by Israel's military assault.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site, and get rid of the destroyed buildings.
Trump's dramatic Oval Office exchange with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, captured on camera, became a viral moment.
You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country, that's back to you, far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Trump's softened stance toward Russia raised eyebrows after he revived direct talks with Moscow, including dispatching ally Stephen Witkoff and holding back-channel meetings in Saudi Arabia. The backlash intensified when Trump struck a strategic mineral deal with Kyiv, bypassing NATO and the EU. The diplomatic rift between the US and the EU deepened, and so did tensions inside NATO. But Trump dismissed the criticism, reviving an old narrative that NATO allies had long cheated the US by failing to meet their military spending commitments. That tension quickly turned economic. In what many saw as retaliation, Trump imposed a sweeping 20% tariff on key European exports, a move that shook global markets. A sweeping series of trade penalties targeted both allies and rivals. Trump's core argument was that years of one-sided trade deals had hollowed out American industry and empowered foreign economies at US expense.
Our country and its taxpayers have been ripped off for more than 50 years, but it is not going to happen anymore. It's not going to happen. In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world. Reciprocal, that means they do it to us and we do it to them. Very simple, can't get any simpler than that.
The rollout began with a 20% blanket tariff on a range of imported goods, from steel and machinery to cars, electronics, and agricultural products. Countries around the world were caught off guard. Some, like China, quickly responded with retaliatory tariffs on American goods. The tariff announcement sent shockwaves through global financial markets. Investor confidence dropped sharply, triggering widespread sell-offs and a spike in volatility. Trump made it clear countries willing to renegotiate and offer more favorable terms to the US could earn relief. The UK and Israel were among the first to sign fast-track agreements, securing reduced tariff brackets in exchange for defense and tech cooperation. At home, Trump mirrored his foreign hardline with domestic crackdowns. Following pro-Gaza campus protests, he ordered mass arrests and targeted elite schools like Harvard, accusing them of spreading anti-American ideology. Funding was slashed for universities that didn't adopt new patriotic standards. The crackdown fit into a broader overhaul. On day one, Trump launched the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, led by Elon Musk, to cut federal waste. One of its first targets was USAID, which saw deep funding cuts. Foreign aid was scaled back, limited only to allies deemed to provide direct value to American taxpayers.
America is back.
Behind the scenes, Trump's White House has been anything but unified. The first 100 days have seen sharp internal disagreements, particularly over tariffs and the Ukraine policy. Mixed messages from senior officials have only added to the confusion. High-profile resignations, especially at the Pentagon, have raised alarms about the administration's internal stability. Former defense officials cited conflicting directives and uncoordinated strategy as key reasons for stepping down.
It's impossible for us.
As Trump's second term charges ahead, one thing is certain: he's not slowing down. With sharp policies, sweeping reforms, and constant controversy, his first 100 days have reset the tone in Washington, and the world is still catching up.
President Trump takes action to ease pressure on the auto industry, approving tariff relief and tax credits just days before new import duties take effect, part of a broader effort to calm investor concerns and support US manufacturers.
In a move to ease the impact of his administration's auto tariffs, President Donald Trump signed 2 executive orders on Tuesday. The measures include a mix of tax credits and tariff relief on imported materials used in US vehicle production. The policy shift, announced as Trump visited Michigan, a key hub of the American auto industry, comes just days before a new round of 25% tariffs on imported automotive components is scheduled to take effect. The measures mark the administration's latest effort to ease concerns among investors and industry leaders about Trump's unpredictable trade strategies. In addition to the tariff changes, the White House also celebrated its first trade agreement with a foreign partner, signalling a potential shift toward a more strategic and less confrontational trade approach. Under Tuesday's orders, automakers will receive credits of up to 15% of the value of US-assembled vehicles to offset the cost of imported parts, offering short-term relief as supply chains adjust.
In a dramatic political shift, Mark Carney has been declared the next Prime Minister of Canada, leading the Liberal Party to a decisive victory in the 2025 federal elections. With a firm stance on Canadian sovereignty, Carney's leadership promises to steer the country toward a new chapter in its foreign and economic policies.
Mark Carney, a former governor of both the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, secured 168 seats, just shy of a majority, but enough to form a stable government. He replaces long-serving Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, whose departure from politics earlier this year opened the door for Carney's swift rise. In his victory speech, Carney struck a firm tone on Canadian sovereignty. He went on to criticize Trump's protectionist trade policies and called for a new era of Canadian independence in foreign and economic policy. He directly addressed tensions with US President Donald Trump and said that Canada will never be owned by America.
Our old relationship with the United States, a relationship based on steadily increasing integration, is over. The system of open global trade, anchored by the United States, a system that Canada has relied on since the Second World War, a system that, while not perfect, has helped deliver prosperity for a country for decades, is over. These are tragedies, but it's also our new reality. We are over the shock of the American betrayal, but we should never forget the lessons. We have to look out for ourselves.
The election results come amid growing trade friction between the two countries, with Canada hit hard by recent US tariffs on aluminum, timber, and agricultural products. Meanwhile, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre suffered a major personal defeat, losing his parliamentary seat. Despite the loss, the Conservatives increased their overall seat count to 144. Smaller parties, including the NDP and the Bloc Québécois, saw significant losses. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh announced his resignation shortly after the results were confirmed. World leaders have welcomed Mark Carney's election win with praise and high expectations. The European Union vowed to deepen ties, calling Carney a partner in defending democracy and free trade. US President Donald Trump has yet to issue a statement on the Liberal victory, which is widely viewed to have been driven by his actions and controversial statements. The UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer praised Carney's economic expertise, while officials in Beijing remained cautious, noting Canada's potential shift away from US-aligned trade frameworks. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky thanked Canada for steadfast support. NATO's Mark Rutte emphasized defense cooperation, as did leaders in the Netherlands and Australia. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi voiced hope for better ties despite recent tensions.
I cannot believe you're doing this.
Mark Carney now begins the task of forming a government, engaging with independents and smaller parties, while outlining Canada's role amid a shifting global landscape marked by division and geopolitical change.
US Secretary of State Marco Rubio says it's time for Russia and Ukraine to present concrete proposals to end the war or risk losing Washington's support as a mediator. A State Department spokesperson, Tammy Bruce, said the next steps now lie with President Trump. The warning comes as efforts to extend a proposed ceasefire falter. Moscow rejected Ukraine's request for a 30-day truce, calling it unrealistic without key issues resolved. President Zelensky, meanwhile, dismissed Russia's earlier 3-day pause as a manipulation tactic. Russia launched drone attacks on Ukraine's Kharkiv, injuring at least 38 people, including 2 children, according to regional authorities. The city's mayor reported a slightly higher toll, saying 39 were hurt as multiple central areas were struck. Emergency crews battled flames and cleared rubble as dramatic footage showed widespread damage. Meanwhile, in the southeastern city of Dnipro, a separate drone strike sparked fires and killed 1 person. Both cities remain frequent targets in the ongoing war, now in its 4th year. Previously, Al-Bakhtiar Hassanov spoke with Rudolf Milevich, CEO of the Christian Medical Association in Lviv, about Putin's announcement of a Russia-Ukraine ceasefire in May. Rudolf discussed whether this move could meaningfully advance conflict resolution and how Ukraine's allies perceive Putin's announcement.
If we're talking about the ceasefire that Putin offered for 9 of March, it's not ceasefire that is going to lead to the peace. I try to understand the strategy of Zelensky that to have at least 30 days ceasefire. Because if we're going to stop for 30 days, for such time, we can negotiate for some future steps, how to have at least peace for a time. But for one day, it's meaningless. So we saw it from Easter, ceasefire, most of the part of the front, from both sides. I talked to soldiers. For some of the region, like Zaporizhia, whereas fights are not active, they were silent. But on Pokrovsk, Kursk, and other regions, there were heavy fights, sometimes as usually. So we obviously can tell that additional one-day ceasefire is not going to change the situation. The same with Russia army. When they are doing the ceasefire, we saw not only a preparation for the attack, for the counterattack, relocations of soldiers in the trenches. We see that they are preparing the mines and other artillery shells to attack the next day. So it doesn't make sense to have just one day in ceasefire. We need a long-term, at least 30 days. So for such time, we can negotiate for next steps that will lead to a long-term peace. For me, it's obviously that Putin and the whole Russia administration are not looking for peace because they're just, how to tell it, they are just prolonged negotiation. We can see how they're trying to act and play, for Trump with Donald Trump, because there is non-action that were from last 100 days of Trump administration were leading to peace from Putin's actions. Obviously, they're just trying to please him. They're just trying to make him a big peacemaker that Trump wants to be. But unfortunately, in the end of the day, Russia is preparing for next years of army, because as soon as you created a war machine, and that's what happened right now, they are doing millions of drones and millions of artillery shells. They've been involved with North Korea. So when you have such strong war machine, you already cannot stop it easily just in one day, because if Russia stop war machine, the economy will collapse. We all know about the huge Russia military soldier salaries, and this is basically what support Russia economy internally. Producing factories, you cannot just close one day artillery or drone factory that was producing millions of pieces each year, and then you will produce some technology. No, they're preparing for a long-term war, and we need sanctions. We need a power. We need a more strength to push on Russia. Otherwise, it's just going to be a preparation for a next war. It's like in World War II, when Hitler, he conquered the France, half of the Europe, and then he started the preparation for a war with Soviet Union. That's what happened then, and that's going to happen again. Thank you for telling the truth to the world.
3 people were shot dead at a hair salon in central Uppsala, Sweden on Tuesday. The incident occurred near Vaksala Square, just ahead of the city's Walpurgis Spring Festival. Authorities said the suspect fled on a scooter and remains at large. A murder investigation is underway, and a large area has been cordoned off as police search for the shooter. Police responded after multiple reports of gunfire in the city centre, roughly 60 kilometres north of Stockholm. Pakistan says it has credible intelligence that India may launch a military strike within the next 24 to 36 hours. The warning follows a deadly militant attack in Kashmir that left 26 people dead. As tensions escalate between the two nuclear-armed neighbours, international calls for restraint are growing louder.
As India-Pakistan tensions rise, Islamabad claims in a late-night post that it has credible intelligence, suggesting India is preparing to carry out a military strike within the next 24 to 36 hours. The planned action, Pakistan says, would use last week's attack in Pahalgam as a pretext.
Pakistan has credible intelligence that India intends carrying out military action against Pakistan in the next 24 to 36 hours on the pretext of baseless and concocted allegations of involvement in the Pahalgam incident. India's self-assumed hubristic role of judge, jury, and executioner in the region is reckless and vehemently rejected. Pakistan has been the victim of terrorism itself and truly understands the pain of this scourge. We have always condemned terrorism in all its forms and manifestations anywhere in the world. Being a responsible state, Pakistan open-heartedly offered a credible, transparent, and independent investigation by a neutral commission of experts to ascertain the truth.
The attack at a tourist destination in Indian-controlled Kashmir sparked outrage across India. Authorities there blame Pakistan-based militants, an accusation Islamabad denies. Pakistan has instead called for an impartial international investigation. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has promised to track down those responsible, stating that both the attackers and their supporters will face consequences. Both countries have taken retaliatory measures. India has suspended the Indus Waters Treaty, while Pakistan has closed its airspace to Indian aircraft. Military tensions along the line of control have reportedly increased. Pakistan also warned that an Indian incursion could be imminent, but stated that nuclear weapons would only be used if the country's survival was threatened. The situation has drawn concern from world powers. The United Nations has reached out to both governments and offered to mediate. The United States and China have also urged both sides to exercise caution. Experts say that if tensions continue to escalate, the region faces the risk of another major military conflict with global ramifications for security and stability.
North Korea conducted the first test firing of the weapons system on its newly unveiled Chohyun-class warship earlier this week, according to the Korean Central News Agency. Named after an anti-Japanese revolutionary fighter, the warship underwent the test on Tuesday. It involved the launch of cruise and anti-air missiles as well as artillery fire. Leader Kim Jong-un and senior officials attended the test. Kim stressed the need to strengthen the Navy's nuclear capabilities to counter future threats. The warship is expected to be fully operational next year, marking a significant upgrade to North Korea's military. Chinese tech giants Tencent and Alibaba have acquired NVIDIA's H20 GPUs from rival company ByteDance, tapping into a stockpile reportedly worth over $13 billion. The move follows a fresh wave of US export restrictions, which now bar the shipment of advanced AI chips directly to China. Manhur Maktoum has more from Beijing.
Chinese tech giants Tencent and Alibaba have acquired NVIDIA's H20 GPUs from ByteDance's massive stockpile, estimated to be worth around $13.7 billion. This move comes as a response to the heightened US export restrictions, which now prevent these chips to be shipped to China directly. The NVIDIA H20 chips are essential for training and running large-scale AI models. Since they are now barred from export, any existing stock within China has become extremely valuable. ByteDance purchased these chips in massive volumes before the ban and is now supplying its competitors who are unable to import them directly. Although NVIDIA has not disclosed the exact price of these chips, industry estimates them to worth between $25,000 to $30,000 each. As demand continues to grow and supply remains limited, the value of these chips is expected to increase even more. The export ban was enforced in April 2025 under the new Trump administration and is part of a broader strategy to limit China's access to these powerful chips that could be used for military or surveillance purposes. NVIDIA reports that the new policies could cost the business $5.5 billion in revenue. It's worth mentioning that the CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, visited China about 10 days ago on the invitation of a Chinese trade organization. During his visit, he said, and quote, "We hope to continue to cooperate with China." As the tensions between China and the United States continue to escalate, NVIDIA finds itself in a very challenging position. On one hand, losing a big market like China could hinder its growth, but at the same time, it must follow the regulations and restrictions imposed by the US government. Manu Maktoum, A News, Beijing, China.
A new chapter in European defence cooperation is unfolding as Turkey's Baykar and Italy's Leonardo seal a strategic partnership aimed at transforming the future of unmanned aerial systems. The deal, exchanged at a high-level summit in Rome, signals a powerful alignment in defence technology between Ankara and Rome.
At the 4th Turkey-Italy Intergovernmental Summit held in Rome, defense leaders Baykar and Leonardo officially exchanged the strategic partnership agreement. The ceremony took place at the historic Villa Pampili, attended by Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. The agreement, originally signed on March 6, was formally exchanged on Tuesday by Selçuk Bayraktar, chairman of Baykar's board of directors, and Roberto Gingolani, CEO and general manager of Leonardo. The strategic partnership is set to combine Baykar's global leadership in unmanned aerial vehicle technology with Leonardo's deep expertise in mission systems, payload development, and aviation certifications across Europe. Baykar, known for its operational UAV platforms and advancements in artificial intelligence, will collaborate with Leonardo, one of Europe's premier defense technology companies. Together, they aim to capture a growing share of the European UAV market by merging cutting-edge design and advanced mission integration. This joint venture goes beyond UAVs. It also includes collaboration in electronic systems, smart payloads, integrated AI solutions, and multi-domain mission architectures. The project will be headquartered across several key Italian cities, including Ronchi dei Legionari, Torino, Roma, Tiburtina, and Nerviano, establishing a strong industrial and technological footprint within the EU.
A high-level defence meeting between Turkey and the United States has taken place in Ankara. Leading the talks were Major General İlkay Altındağ, Director General for Defence and Security at Turkey's Ministry of Defence, and Catherine Thompson, Acting Assistant Secretary of Defence for International Security Affairs. Discussions covered defence and the defence industry, regional and global security threats, and strategic partnerships. Major General Altındağ noted that the next meeting will be held in the United States next year. Afghanistan's acting foreign minister met with Qatar's top leadership in Doha to discuss bilateral relations, regional developments, and Qatar's continued support for the Afghani people.
During the visit, the acting Afghan Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi held talks with Qatar's Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani. The two sides focused on strengthening diplomatic ties, enhancing trade, and addressing current developments in the region. According to the Afghan Foreign Ministry, both parties emphasized the importance of deepening cooperation. The Qatari Foreign Minister described relations with Afghanistan as close and brotherly and welcomed Afghanistan's improved engagement with the region. He also underlined the need for stronger economic links, particularly through greater interaction between the private sectors of both nations. Muttaqi, for his part, thanked Qatar for its invitation and acknowledged its vital role in Afghanistan's foreign policy. He also called for Qatari investment in Afghanistan's development and commercial sectors, proposing new efforts to boost bilateral trade. Qatar has long played a central role in Afghan diplomacy. It hosted Taliban leaders during the US-led war and served as a venue for the 2020 peace agreement between the United States and the Taliban. In recent years, Doha has also hosted several rounds of talks between Afghanistan's de facto authorities and the international community. Most notably, the UN-chaired Doha talks aimed at addressing Afghanistan's political, economic, and humanitarian challenges. Despite these close diplomatic ties, trade between Afghanistan and Qatar remains limited. In 2023, Qatar's import from Afghanistan totaled just over $1.17 million, according to United Nations Comtrade database. As Afghanistan seeks deeper regional engagement, Qatar continues to serve as a key diplomatic and economic partner. This is Tamim Bahis in Kabul for A News.
That's the world news for the hour. Keep watching A News for more updates throughout the day.